I'm Allison Barbosa, and I'm delighted to be chatting today with Peter Zotos, Managing Director, Global Head of Clearing Product Solutions Specialist at JP Morgan Chase. Welcome, Peter. Perhaps you want to start with a few words of introduction.
Sure, Allison. Thank you for having me, and I'm really pleased and honored to be a part of this series of Women in Payments. I think you summarized my role. So I've spent the majority of my career in transaction banking. I've been with JP Morgan for a total of a little over 8 years of my 20-plus year career. And I manage our product solutions specialists, helping clients with, just as it says, the solutions that they require to support their cross-border payment needs.
Perfect. So for anyone that's new to My Career in 6, we typically start with some rapid fire questions that just looking for one word answers, and then we'll follow it up with some detailed questions. And just for everybody, for this episode of My Career in 6, we're looking at Break the Bias. So for this month, being that it's International Women's Day on March 8th, we're looking to do everything with our male allies to really help to promote what the men are doing to help us.
Sure.
So let's start. You ready, Peter?
I'm ready.
Who or what inspires you?
I would say family, friends, teamwork, and focusing on a common cause.
What drives you?
I think it's a sense of obligation. So again, back to who inspires me, I always feel a sense of obligation towards the people in my social circle, whether it's family, friends, or even colleagues and clients.
Favorite quote or motto you live by?
So the quote I selected is one that is, pressure is something you feel when you don't know what you're doing. I think that applies in many places in life.
When applying for a new opportunity, what percentage of required attributes do you feel you need to have to be able to apply for that role?
Yeah, I think it's more than a certain percentage, and ticking the box kind of gets you out of the initial pool, maybe, of applicants or people being considered. But I think, and a lot of what we'll talk about today, it's about your personal story, right? What is it that you bring to a role? What is driving you? What do you get enthusiastic about? So I always look at it as more than just what's on your resume or CV.
Coolest payments company today?
Other than my employer, I would say the one I'm most impressed with is probably Amazon. Like a lot of people, they've made it dangerously easy to buy things, and that's something to respect, I think.
Thanks, Peter. Now we're going to go into a little bit more detail about yourself and a little bit about your career journey.
Of course.
What does it mean to you to be an ally?
So, I'm involved in a number of different areas. I'm an active ally in our Pride Network here in the state of Illinois within JP Morgan Chase. I'm very proud of that. I think to be a good ally, you really need to focus on inclusion, empathy, and also a sense of getting to understand each person's personal story. Being a white, cis male, straight, of a certain age and in a senior management role, I think there's still a lot of power that allies like me can bring to the table, whether we're talking about women in payments, whether we're talking about the Pride area. There's really an obligation, I feel, and I take very seriously, for helping out in that space to make sure the voices of our friends and colleagues are being heard, and also hopefully influencing change in a positive manner.
In terms of supporting women of all levels of seniority in the industry, what are you doing this year as an active ally to make a difference?
It's interesting, just to give a little personal background, I think that helps as well. So, my mother started working when I was very young, and this is in the 80s, probably around the age 9 or 10 years old. And so I've seen firsthand, certainly a different era then, what it's like, the pressure women have in roles. Hopefully it's less than it used to be, but it's still very significant. I'm also the proud father of a 21-year-old woman who'll be entering the job market in a few years. So that's one of the reasons I'm very supportive of this topic and lending support as an ally. For myself and my job, I think there are a number of things that I'm doing this year. One is we have a very big focus on the emerging female talent in our organization, especially, I'm speaking specifically to the part of the bank that I work in, looking for opportunities to highlight them, raise their profile, whether it's internally on special projects, whether it's external with clients and pitches that we're making, presentations, or even industry bodies like this. I make sure to host regular skip levels with everyone on my team. But again, we're very, very focused this year on what we can do for our emerging female talent to make sure we get to know them at an individual basis and see what we can do to help them succeed.
And what can an ally do on a day-to-day basis?
So I think one of the biggest things is to have an open door policy. That's certainly something that I think is really, really important. I encourage everyone that I work with, and open door is virtual as much as it is physical over the last couple of years. And being in a global role, I think gives me that unique opportunity to get to know people at an individual level. You know, women in payments is such a broad term, right? It's an umbrella term. But like anything in this space around diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think it's really important to understand each person's unique story and the challenges they're facing, and also understand what motivates them. How will they be the most productive that they can be in their role while balancing everything else and all the other challenges they face in life.
Are there any best practices that focus on supporting women in the workplace that you've been a part of or witnessed that others could emulate?
You know, I like this question a lot because I think there are a couple of successes. I'll share one of them in particular that I worked on very closely in a prior role, and that's around helping women that are on, I'll call them flexible schedules. So working mothers in particular get promoted to very senior levels within my team. And historically, you know, if a woman was in a part-time schedule, only a certain number of days or a certain number of hours per week, we had a tendency, I found, to kind of limit their advancement opportunities. And we didn't think that that was appropriate. And I was very proud to be directly involved in overseeing a promotion at a senior level of one of my colleagues who's done a phenomenal job, and yet she works on a flexible schedule. So again, at the end of the day, leadership is exhibited in many different ways, not just from 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever standard hours you operate in, and not just Monday to Friday. So, you know, that's one I'm really, really proud of having been a part of, to recognize that success, you know, it's about what you deliver, maybe not when you're working on a computer.
You've built a fantastic career in the industry, as well as a strong industry network. As a male ally, how can men support the women in their networks to build their careers? And are there differences in how men and women network, and how can women do this differently to get a better result?
That's a great question, Allison. I think for me, it's about opening up this great network that I've developed during the course of my career. So I am always willing to provide introductions and help my colleagues, my female colleagues, get directly involved. You know, there are many industry groups who are engaged in where they're always looking for volunteers. It's a great way to help them with their networking with peers and senior leaders within the industry.
The theme for this year's International Women's Day, as you know, is Break the Bias. And what biases do you see in the industry? And as a male ally, can you share insights to how men can help to break that bias?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and you know, again, I don't want to make it specific maybe to our industry. I think in general, there were two that came to mind when I was thinking about this question. The first one is about behavior. I think there are times, and it still exists, hopefully it's improved over time, but it's still out there, where sometimes the behavior that we think is what's required by a male leader, when it's replicated or exhibited by a female leader, is sometimes misconstrued, or it's taken in a different manner. It's maybe not viewed as positively as it would be in a man. And I think that's obviously quite unfair, right? At the end of the day, if I'm hearing any of those comments, and thankfully they're very infrequent, but if I do hear them, it's about pulling the conversation back to about the results and you know, not about the person's style, because we each have a unique style, whether we're male or female, but really about the results it drives. But I think that perception is still out there, and that's something that we really just in general need to correct within society. The second one, which is, you know, again, something I try to help out with personally, is I think there is still a very heavy burden on working mothers in our industry, in any industry, meaning that a lot of the child caring we still default to, it's the woman has a significant responsibility to play. There could be pressure at work around raising requests for unique hours, or heading off for work early, maybe for child care, or even for supporting your child in after school activities. So one of the things I always make a point with my team very openly is that I still have a 12-year-old at home, as well as 2 grown children. And there are times where I need flexibility in my schedule to balance that. And I think when you as a male ally are publicizing that in a very open manner, it encourages comfort to come forward to me and to other seniors in the organization that we can do it, right? We can balance both. But women, I feel like, still very heavily, feel the burden of childcare, and that's something that hopefully starts to diminish a bit, but we're not there yet.
Agree. No, thank you so much, Peter, and on those wonderful words of wisdom. I appreciate you taking the time to share your journey with us and to talk a little bit more about what men can be doing to help break the bias. So appreciate that. And thank you all for listening. And I encourage you to join us online for many other episodes of My Career in 6, where we chat with a lot of inspirational leaders from people around the world in payments.
Thanks, Allison.
Peter.